Hello, everyone. My name is Tanner Patschke, and this is my athlete case study project part 3. I want to begin by introducing my athlete that I've been working with over this past semester. His name is Steve McBride. Steve is a 22-year-old male collegiate wrestler who's a full-time student with a part-time retail job. And a little bit about Steve's information here. For Steve's athlete summary, we have some of his weight history. Steve is 196 pounds at 5 foot 11 inches, which is going to make his BMI 27, which technically classifies him as overweight. His goal weight range that I'm using is 172 to 182 pounds. I decided this based on his ideal body weight as well as using the NCAA male wrestling weight classes. Wrestling is a sport divided by weight class, and being 196 pounds is going to put him in the 184 to 197 pound weight class. And he's on the heavier side of the class, so I think that he needs to lose a little bit of body fat, which is going to help his performance without moving him into a different weight class. But if Steve is comfortable with trying to reach the goal weight range, then not only will we have a more favorable body composition in terms of body fat to muscle mass ratio, which would increase performance, but Steve would also drop to a lower weight class, which typically would lead to more success for the athlete. And as far as his injury history goes, his only issue right now is a herniated disc in his lower back. And he reports that most of the time he feels no discomfort. But whenever he's squatting, he must wear a belt or he will feel some pain. He also reports feeling fatigued often, but has never decided to seek professional help to determine why. He has no known allergies or intolerances. And for medications, he does take omeprazole daily because he has a history of gastroesophageal reflux disease, otherwise known as GERD. And omeprazole is known to cause vitamin B12 deficiency in some people who take it, but I'm going to go more into detail about that later and discuss how I'm going to address it. And currently, he's following a ketogenic diet because he would like to cut fat and increase muscle mass. And because he is distant away from his goal range, I'm recommending a 250 calorie deficit to his recommended daily total calories. And since he does have a slightly higher body fat percentage than the average athlete in his sport, which for most collegiate athletes, it's collegiate wrestlers, that is, it's 1.6 to 16% body fat. And currently he's at 20%. So if he can lose some body fat while maintaining his current muscle mass, this is going to help his performance and again, hopefully drop him into a lower weight class, which will make him lead to more success, hopefully. And I don't have any information regarding his personal body weight goals. That is something that I'm going to ask him at the next session and to see if he will be willing to drop weight to the goal range that we have set. And as for nutrient recommendations, I'm I'm suggesting a range of 3,329 to 3,529 kcals per day. And this is going to be his maintenance. I haven't calculated in the 250 kcal deficit yet. But how I got to this number was using the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation, the Cunningham equation, and the simplistic formula. I took the total of all three of those and added them together and divided by 3 to get the average. And then that is the 3,529 that we have listed, or that I've listed. And then with the 250 kcal deficit, the total kcals is going to be 3,279. And then I gave him a little like a 200 calorie range. So it's 3,079 to 3,279 kcals for the day. And for the macronutrient distribution for these calories, we're going to be going off the 3,279 calories per day. And we're going to be doing 492 grams of carbohydrates and that's going to total 1,967 calories and make up 60% of the daily calories he's intaking. And the reason I chose 60% of total calories to come from carbohydrates is to help support recovery and keep those glycogen stores up throughout the day, since the athlete is training very frequently. And for protein, we're going to have Steve eating 134 grams per day, which is going to be 536 calories, and make up 16.5% of his total daily calories. And I chose this number by using 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight to provide a positive nitrogen balance and help support his goal of increasing muscle mass, since strength is so important for wrestling. And for fat, we're going with 86 grams a day, totaling 776 calories from fat. And that's going to be 23.5% of the daily diet. And how I got to this number was just using the remainder of the calories after calculating the carbs and the protein. 23.5% is within the recommended range. And so I felt this was an appropriate amount to help support fat-soluble vitamin metabolism, as well as the regulation of sex hormones. Currently, Steve has a pretty well-rounded diet. He likes fruits, vegetables, and whole grain, and he eats a variety of these daily. So there's little risk for micronutrient deficiencies. However, the only meat he eats is fish, so he could be lacking in nutrients such as calcium, phosphorus, B12, and zinc, but I'm going to address these later throughout the presentation. And since Steve's diet is so rich in fruits and vegetables, he has no trouble getting the recommended amount of fiber in the daily food log that you're about to see after this. I believe his total of fiber was 40 grams for the day, so that's within his range. And those fruits and vegetables are also loaded with electrolytes, so there's little need to take a supplemental form because he is consuming so many fruits and vegetables. And for fluid intake, I'm using the ACSM fluid replacement guidelines on the day that Steve trains, but I'm going to go more into detail on that later. But just his general day-to-day, his rest days, he doesn't get very many of them, but whenever he's not exercising, he aims for 4 liters of water daily. And I got this number by just going slightly above the adequate intake level, which is 3.7 liters a day for men. And Steve is currently supplementing with whey protein products and pre-workout. Since Steve's not a coffee drinker and he's not getting caffeine any other point in the day, I have no real concern that he's going to be over-consuming caffeine. Depending on his choice of pre-workout, it's likely that he's going to be getting 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine from supplementation, which is still going to leave him in the moderate range for caffeine consumption. So as long as he doesn't begin to experience any new negative side effects from the supplement, I'd support him taking it. And as far as the whey protein supplementation is concerned, as long as he doesn't start experiencing any GI discomfort, I think it's a great way to quickly refuel following a workout, and I support his decision to take it. But with the combination of his pescatarian diet and the omeprazole medication, Steve runs the risk of becoming deficient in vitamin B12. Many of the sources of B12 come from animal products such as eggs, beef, and dairy products. And since Steve doesn't eat these regularly, I'm recommending a B12 supplement of 2.4 micrograms a day, which is the recommended dose from the National Institutes of Health. And this dose will prevent him from suffering any of the negative consequences of B12 deficiency, like fatigue, weakness, and weight loss. And I can't be 100% sure based on the information given to me, but there is a chance that the fatigue that he did report could be due to a B12 deficiency, but I would need more information to know that, as well as some follow-ups and possibly some blood work to determine if that's what that really was. So here we have Steve's one-day sample meal plan. Steve listed fruits, vegetables, and whole grains as food that he likes to eat. So I made sure to load him up with plenty of all those. and as well as add a variety of different kinds of fruits and vegetables to try to get adequate levels of micronutrients to support his fitness goals and just an overall healthy lifestyle. He likes to have his breakfast first thing in the morning at about 8 a.m. And this meal is going to consist of 157 grams of carbs, 31 grams of protein to help fuel his workout. Since it is a pre-workout meal, I try to keep the fat content relatively low. There's no major source of fat in this meal, but the oats and bananas provide 11 grams to help Steve feel satiated before his workout. And I'm also encouraging him to drink 500 milliliters or 2 cups of water before workout. Steve prefers waiting about 2 hours after his meal before beginning exercise to ensure that he has enough time for digestion, avoid GI issues, as well as not keeping his GERD from flaring up from working out too soon after eating. And about 15 to 30 minutes before exercise is whenever Steve takes his pre-workout supplement with 10 ounces of water. And then after his workout, Steve drinks his favorite muscle milk protein shake to refuel. I encourage this to be taken as soon as possible following the workout, as long as it's not leading to any discomfort or GI issues. And if that is the case, then I would recommend waiting 15 to 25 minutes before consuming. And if it's still an issue, then maybe finding a different form of protein supplementation other than whey. And after he drinks his shake, he waits about an hour and a half to 2 hours before consuming his post-workout meal, which is going to be more balanced in macronutrients to help him refuel as well as begin the recovery process. And this meal has 137 grams of carbs, 36 grams of protein, and 14 grams of fat. And with this meal, Steve should be drinking another about 2 cups of water still. And then around 4:30, about 3.5 hours following his post-workout meal, Steve's going to eat dinner. And this is going to consist of 92 grams of carbs, 32 grams of protein, and 37 grams of fat. And since this meal is later in the day and not surrounding a workout, I plan the meal to have more fat than the others. And this is going to help him feel satiated for longer, and while he's waiting on that last meal of the day. As well. And for the last meal of the day, it's designed to be lighter and consist of snacky foods that do not take much preparation time. Because as a full-time student and athlete with a part-time job in retail, it's helpful to have a meal that you can eat with you on the go while still meeting your macronutrient recommendations from healthy whole foods. And this will consist of 94 grams of carbs, 9 grams of protein, and 16 grams of fat. Since the meal is consumed at night, I try to keep the fat content low because high-fat meals late at night can cause Steve's GERD to flare up, which is something that we want to avoid. We want our athletes to be as comfortable as possible. And if you notice for the fluid recommendations, I recommended 2 cups at the meals surrounding his workout to ensure adequate fluid levels for exercise, and then 1 to 2 cups for the other meals to avoid dehydration throughout the day. And the total macronutrient and calorie count for the whole sample day is listed. I have 133 grams of protein for the day. We were shooting for 134, and then 489 grams of carbs, and the goal was 492. And then the total fat is 85, and we were going for 86. So we're very close in all these ranges. And the total calories was 3,306. So we are slightly above the range that I have set, but only by a couple hundred calories. So it shouldn't really be an issue, or only by 100 calories. I mean, and for Steve's exercise routine, Steve has been wrestling for a total of 5 years. He started as a sophomore in high school and is currently in his 3rd year of collegiate wrestling at the D1 level. I don't have any information on how often he exercises, but as a collegiate athlete, it's safe to assume he practices wrestling about 4 to 5 times a day. And he also reports resistance training on his own time, meaning he probably exercises in some form for 6 days out of the week, 5 to 6 days out of the week. And both wrestling and training are sports that require a lot of power, which is why I decided on the higher protein range at 1.5 grams per kilogram. Again, support a positive nitrogen balance and hopefully some muscle growth. And if Steve was currently in season, I wouldn't recommend the calorie deficit. I would be more concerned with optimizing his performance at his current weight by maintaining glycogen stores and making sure he's got adequate energy to compete and train at such a high level. And for the timing of the meals, Steve likes to exercise 2 hours after his morning meal to give himself time to digest and avoid GI distress. And then immediately following his workout, he's going to drink his protein shake to refuel. And then about an hour and a half after that, or to 2 hours, depending on how he feels and if he's comfortable, Steve's going to eat his lunch that contains an adequate amount of carbs, fats, and protein to support recovery. And then for the remainder of the meals, they're going to be spread out 3.5 to 4 hours to give him time to just fully digest. And then also waiting in that window is going to promote a bigger insulin spike, which can also lead to more muscle protein synthesis. And for the fluid intake, I'm using the ACSM fluid replacement guidelines for the Dave Steve trains, which again, 5 to 6 days out of the week, that is almost daily that he's doing this. And so before exercise, I encourage him to try to get 500 milliliters or a little over 2 cups. And then this is based on the 5 to 7 milliliters per kilogram by the ACSM. And then during exercise, we discussed the importance of hydrating throughout, but I also warned him about how overconsumption of water can hinder performance. And so that's something that he's aware of, and he's careful not to overconsume. And following exercise, Steve weighs himself before he has the shake to determine how much weight he's lost in kilograms. And then he drinks the recommended 1.5 liters per kilogram lost following his workout. And I didn't have all the information necessary to provide Steve the best counseling possible. So I prepared some extra questions to help me better understand how I can assist my athlete with meeting his goals. So the first question we have is, would you be willing to drop weight in order to get closer to your goal weight range? I mentioned earlier that I feel that it would be beneficial for Steve to lose some body fat, which would improve his performance and possibly even enter him in a lower weight class, which can improve success too. But I have to make sure first that that's something he's comfortable with. If he likes the weight that he's at and doesn't want to switch weight classes, then I have to work with him and adjust the diet accordingly. And another question I have is, you made a comment about feeling fatigued often. On a scale of 1 to 10, how severe do you feel the fatigue is? And since Steve mentioned that he'd never gone to the doctor about this fatigue, I feel that it's not that serious. But if it's becoming an issue with training or getting progressively worse, then it is something I need to address and possibly refer him out to if it's something that I can't determine the cause, or if the cause is something out of my scope of practice. But right now we're not hoping, but thinking that it could be a B12 deficiency, and that we'll correct that with a supplementation. And next we have, would you consider adding some food during training to support energy? Steve never mentioned at what time he was feeling fatigued, but if the fatigue occurs during exercise, maybe introducing something like fruit, like have an apple or a banana at practice would help give him the energy needed to complete his workout. And then also I want to make sure he's comfortable with the current meal plan. I chose foods based on the information given to me from Steve's preferences, but I still want to make sure this is a plan that he's comfortable with and something that he's going to be successful sticking at. He told me he likes fruits and vegetables, but maybe he hates peaches and hates spinach, and I need to find him some new ones. I need to be flexible and work with him on what's going to help him succeed the best. And then finally, some of the meals require longer cooking times with your busy schedule. Do you feel like you're going to have enough time to prepare the foods? I feel like this question is really important because, like I mentioned, full-time student, college athlete, part-time job. My client is extremely busy, probably running around all the time, doing all kinds of practices and everything. And so I just want to make sure that the diet plan is something that's going to work with him. And if not, then I need to make some adjustments to better accommodate the athlete to make sure that he can get the most amount of success possible. And then here I have listed all the references that help me to make all these recommendations. This is the end of the presentation. So thank you for watching. I hope that this was helpful and informative and educational, and hope you had a little bit of fun learning about Steve with me.